Here to discuss, two CBSN political contributors, Republican strategist Leslie Sanchez on the left and Democratic strategist Liz Smith, in case you don't know. So ladies, 4 days left. We're looking at Donald Trump, his ground game there in particularly Leslie, Nevada, making a push there. What's going on there? We're seeing it tightening for Democrats. What does this all mean?
Well, definitely. Nevada is always a very interesting state. It's a little bit different than others because you have a very strong Latino vote. It's one of the areas where the culinary unions on the Democratic side has been really effective at mobilization. But aside from that, you're definitely seeing a lot of excitement. And with the excitement, there's some unpredictability. I think the Trump folks would like to believe that their folks are getting out and voting, and the Democrats have an amazing ground operation going back to the Obama campaign. So one thing you're going to hear, and I have heard talking to folks on the ground, they are even, everybody's optimistically staying positive because it's going to be that 1 percentage point either way.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Leslie had to say there. I don't think it's going to be 1 percentage point. Nevada is a notoriously very tough state to poll because of its high Latino population, high Asian American population, and also the fact that if you look at the biggest city there, Las Vegas, people don't work 9 to 5 hours there. So it's really tough to get people on the phone. And if you look at polls there in the past, in 2012, it showed a much closer race than it ended up being. In 2010, when Harry Reid was up for re-election, almost all the polls showed him losing, and then he won by a healthy margin. So, Democrats almost always outperform the polls. Because of what Leslie said, we have a very strong ground game there with the culinary union. And if you look at what some of the Nevada political experts are saying, they're saying that Democrats currently have an insurmountable lead in early voting, and that it's likely going to carry down ballot, which is actually the opposite of what we're seeing in a lot of states where diminished Democratic enthusiasm is going to hurt Democrats down ballot.
You know, an interesting thing we haven't really talked about is the fact that had we been able to rely on the traditional ground operation of the governors in those states, you have Brian Sandoval, for example, who is the governor, Latino, very popular. You have a lot of state judges, you have a lot of state operatives who really could be mobilizing their constituency on the precinct level, but they've been extremely quiet throughout this effort. We've been relying more on Reince Priebus and the Republican National Committee because of the fact that a lot of the establishment Republicans have still had to distance themselves. So it's going to be coming down to this thing post-election day. Those few votes count, and when we're talking about too close to call elections, it's very imperative, it's imperative to get the state folks on board.
You know what's interesting? We've seen in the last few days some very interesting rulings by a judge on voting rights. Very fascinating. In Ohio, they actually put out a restraining order on Donald Trump's campaign. It's over voter intimidation. We've also seen North Carolina. The state was forced to reinstate a large number of voters back to the polls. Most of these voters are actually African American. What impact, Liz, is this going to have on the race?
Well, first, it's good for democracy that we're doing it, but I think it speaks volumes to the desperation on the Republican Party's part that they're resorting to these sort of shameful voter suppression tactics. In Ohio, good for the Ohio Democratic Party and David Pepper, the chair there, for standing up to this and standing up to the Trump campaign, because every vote needs to be protected. And it's a good sign for Democrats. We've been fighting against this for the last few cycles, but it's good for us, bad for Republicans, and it's bad for Republicans in the future because it sends a message to voters of color that their voices and their votes don't matter as much as everyone else's.
I think that creates a false narrative that I don't buy into, and I think a lot of Republicans or independent voters don't buy into it too. There's a lot of shenanigans that go on those final days. There's going to be a lot of false polls, false hopes, and that's part of this mind game, and moving back and forth the political parties are playing in the media, and it's all about getting out the vote, right? It's getting these folks to go. But with respect to real voting, like voter fraud, or we want to ensure that every valid vote is counted, but there are numerous instances where there are multiple people registered in multiple counties and they're voting depending on where they need to move the vote, and we've found hundreds of thousands in Florida, for example, last election. So I think there's a little bit of suspicion on both parts, but we agree. We want it to be fair. We just don't want it to be part of it.
Can I just make one point here? There's an exhaustive study done on this by Loyola Law School, found out of 1 billion votes cast, 31 instances of voter fraud. Voter fraud is a myth.
No,
it is a complete myth.
We're going to move on to a lighter topic. Break you two up. A Jay-Z song was on last night.
Yes.
Hillary Clinton, Jay-Z. There's a lot of celebrity endorsements
Yeah.
on the campaign trail. Let's actually listen to this bit with Hillary Clinton and Jay-Z.
Rosa Parks sat so Martin Luther could walk. Martin Luther walked so Barack Obama could run. Barack Obama ran so all the children could fly.
And remember, Jay memorably said something we should all recall. Rosa Parks sat so Martin Luther could walk, and Martin Luther walked so Barack Obama could run, and Barack Obama ran so all the children could fly.
So, do these events really get the vote out? They're trying to clearly target a millennial, maybe even African American, Latino. Does this work?
Sometimes. I mean, I think we can all, I never thought I'd see the day where Hillary Clinton is quoting Jay-Z. But look, they need to generate excitement. They need to bring some sexiness, some swagger to the campaign. And there are no bigger superstars right now than Jay-Z and Beyonce. And if you really want to activate millennials and you know, the African American vote, why not bring out the biggest superstars in the country right now?
If you have it at your disposal,
Yeah.
Hollywood loves that kind of thing. I think it's great. It just shows that it takes somebody like, you know, Jay-Z and Beyonce to come out to get people excited about Hillary Clinton. That would be the first thing I would say. But the second thing, you know, I got to meet Celia Cruz. I think it's great for staff and people that are like at the rallies.
Seriously.
And, you know, with George W. Bush and Celia Cruz and Shakira went on the road in New Mexico. And we had a lot of different, well, back then it was Hispanic, and Vicente Fernandez, who now came out for Hillary and kind of on the left. So it's fun. I think artists have to be very careful, but overwhelmingly, it generates media coverage and excitement. And for youth, I think it can definitely remind them to vote.
I want to ask you guys, we're just getting word in now, the Pence and Trump campaign have announced that they are going to head to Minnesota. Minnesota is a state where Hillary Clinton has a 10-point lead. Leslie, what are they doing?
Wow. Don't know. You know,
the final few days and hours are
you
so
know,
critical,
it's a bit
right?
of a buckshot approach, you know, just kind of scatter all over the place. I don't know where Kellyanne is going with that. I think they're definitely looking for where to flip one of these blue states. That it made sense for them to be in Michigan and certainly for Pennsylvania. But it's diminishing returns when you come to time and the amount of money it takes to get out there. But he does have, meaning Trump, surrogates stand out across the country in competitive states. So their internal data may say something different.
But Liz, a 10-point lead, like, why even bother? It's 4 days out at this point. Are you going to change a 10-point lead?
You know, it's funny. I swear, if you look 4 years back, Paul Ryan was in Minnesota like the Saturday before the election. We know how it turned out. They're just trying to find, you know, alternative paths to 270. And I mean, Minnesota is a real outside chance, but you know, they're at least maybe they're trying to be optimistic here. I don't know. I think we can both agree that it's probably not the best use of their time
Well, it's
right
not the
now.
most diverse state in America, so we can look at it that way. Because if
Yeah.
you're talking about, you know, a lot of working class white, that 35%, and
Which he
trying to
does well
increase-
in,
he does
very
extremely
well
in,
in,
and
yeah.
moving that up. If you're just looking demographically, which is going to be the challenge, I think, especially if you think about, we talked about millennials, or young people going to vote because they saw Hillary Clinton with, you know, Beyonce, but about 45% of millennials are ethnic minorities. So the country is really changing, and you see the political map changing based on where these candidates go.
Leslie Sanchez, Liz Smith, thank you ladies for joining us.
Thank you.